Dr. Elias Venn had always been fascinated by the unknown. As an astrophysicist aboard humanity's first interstellar research vessel, Aurora, he spent most of his days studying distant stars and mysterious planets, but nothing could have prepared him for what happened on that fateful day. The planet they were exploring was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with violet clouds, swirling like liquid silk against the dark void of space. The air crackled with energy, making it hard to focus on their instruments. Captain Mara had warned them to stay alert. "This place feels alive," she said before sending the team down to collect samples. Elias didn't believe in gut feelings. He trusted data, facts, and logic. Yet, as he stepped onto the alien soil, something about the planet unsettled him. It wasn't just the strange hum in the air, or the way the ground seemed to pulse faintly underfoot. It was deeper than that, almost as if the planet itself knew they were there. At first, everything went smoothly. The team gathered rock samples and scanned the environment. But then, without warning, the ground beneath Elias shifted violently. One moment, he was crouching to examine a glowing crystal. The next, he was falling through darkness. His teammates shouted his name, but their voices faded into silence as the world spun around him. When Elias opened his eyes again, he wasn't on the planet's surface anymore. Instead, he found himself lying on a smooth, translucent floor that glowed faintly blue. Above him stretched an impossibly high ceiling made of glittering crystal formations. Around him stood towering insectoid creatures, their carapaces shimmering with hues of gold and green. Their faces were unreadable, their large black eyes reflecting light like polished obsidian. Before Elias could process where or even who he was, movement caught his attention. From the far end of the vast chamber, a figure approached. She was taller than the others, her silver skin gleaming softly in the dim light. Her presence commanded respect, and every step she took resonated with authority. When she finally stopped in front of him, Elias felt small, not just physically, but emotionally. There was something about her gaze that pierced straight through him. "You've returned," she said, her voice melodic yet firm. "My king." Elias blinked, confusion washing over him. "King? What are you talking about? I'm not." But she didn't let him finish. Kneeling beside him, she placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Her touch sent a jolt through his body, as though sparks of electricity danced along his skin. "Kellyan," she whispered, her tone filled with both relief and sorrow. "How could you forget me?" "Forget her?" Elias shook his head, trying to make sense of her words. He had never met this woman, or whatever she was, before now. And yet there was something oddly familiar about her. Something tugged at the edges of his memory, like a dream slipping away upon waking. "I don't know who you think I am," Elias said slowly, "but my name is Dr. Elias Venn. I'm part of a human research team. We came here to study your planet." The woman tilted her head, studying him intently. For a moment, Elias thought she might believe him. Then her expression hardened, and two guards moved closer, flanking him protectively, or perhaps threateningly. "Human," she repeated, her voice colder now. "No, you are Zithari. You are Kellyan, my mate, lost to me these many cycles. Whatever lies they've told you, whatever tricks they've played on your mind, I will undo them. You belong here, with me." Elias wanted to argue, to insist that she was wrong. But as he looked into her galaxy-like eyes, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was truth hidden within her claims. Still, one thing was certain: escape wasn't going to be easy. Not when every exit seemed guarded by towering aliens who clearly didn't take orders from humans. As the Queen rose to her feet, her gaze never leaving his, Elias realized this wasn't just an encounter with extraterrestrial life. This was the beginning of something far more complex and potentially dangerous than he could have imagined. The Queen, who called herself Zarithia, wasted no time in trying to convince Elias of his supposed identity. She led him through the crystalline palace, its halls shimmering with light that seemed alive, pulsating gently as if breathing. Every step Elias took felt surreal, like walking through a dream or a nightmare. The towering insectoid guards followed silently, their presence both intimidating and suffocating. "This is where we rule together," Zarithia said, her voice soft but firm as she gestured toward an enormous throne room. Two massive chairs made of glowing crystal stood at the center, surrounded by intricate carvings depicting battles and ceremonies. Elias stared at the scene, his mind racing. It all looked alien, literally, but there was something oddly familiar about it too, though he couldn't explain why. Zarithia noticed his hesitation and smiled faintly. "You don't remember yet," she said, almost to herself. "But you will." She guided him to another chamber, this one filled with holographic displays floating in midair. With a wave of her hand, she activated one of them. A series of images appeared before Elias, showing scenes he couldn't comprehend. There was a man who looked remarkably like him, taller, perhaps, with sharper features and silver streaks running through his hair, but unmistakably similar. This man fought alongside Zarithia in epic battles, stood beside her during grand celebrations, and shared quiet moments with her under starlit skies. Elias watched in stunned silence. These memories, or whatever they were, felt vivid, tangible. He saw himself, or rather, Kalian, laughing, strategizing, even holding Zarithia's hand as they gazed out over a vast alien landscape. But none of it stirred any recognition within him. It was like watching someone else's life unfold. "These are your memories," Zarithia insisted. "Our memories. You vanished during the Great War, taken by forces unknown. I searched for you endlessly, believing you dead until now. And yet here you are, alive." Elias shook his head, backing away slightly. "No," he said firmly. "This isn't me. I'm not. Whoever you think I am. My name is Elias Venn. I'm human. I work on a research vessel. None of this makes sense." For a moment, Zarithia looked hurt, her galaxy-like eyes clouding with sadness. Then her expression hardened again. "They've tampered with your mind," she said bitterly. "The humans. They must have done this to you. They erased your true self so you wouldn't remember who you really are." Her words sent a chill down Elias's spine. Was it possible? Could humanity have altered his memories? He had always trusted science, logic, facts, but now doubt crept into his thoughts. Why did those holograms feel so real? Why did Zarithia's touch spark strange sensations deep inside him? Determined to find answers, Elias asked to see more evidence. Zarithia obliged, showing him additional recordings of Kalian leading armies, delivering speeches, and performing acts of heroism. Each new image only deepened Elias's confusion. Finally, she brought up a medical scan, a detailed map of Kalian's body, highlighting injuries sustained during battles. To Elias's shock, several of these wounds matched scars on his own body, scars he had never questioned before. "How do you explain this?" Zarithia asked softly, pointing to a jagged line across Kalian's chest. Elias instinctively touched the identical mark on his torso. His heart raced. Coincidence, or proof that Zarithia was telling the truth? Despite the mounting evidence, Elias refused to accept her claims outright. Something still didn't add up. If he truly was Kalian, why couldn't he remember anything? And if he wasn't, how could these holograms and scars exist? As the day wore on, Zarithia grew increasingly frustrated with his skepticism. "You were my partner, my equal," she snapped at one point. "Do you think I would lie about this? Do you think I could look at you and not know you?" Her anger unsettled him, but what unnerved him more was the flicker of emotion in her eyes when she spoke. Pain, longing, love. Whatever the truth was, Zarithia genuinely believed he was her lost mate. That much was clear. By the time night fell, or what passed for night in this alien world, Elias lay awake in the luxurious quarters Zarithia had provided for him. Staring at the glowing ceiling, he replayed everything in his mind. Who was he, really? A human scientist named Elias Venn, or an alien warrior called Kellyan? And if he was Kellyan, what did that mean for his humanity? One thing was certain: the answers wouldn't come easily. The next morning, Elias woke up feeling more trapped than ever. The palace was beautiful, but its shimmering walls felt like a gilded cage. He couldn't shake the weight of Zerithia's words, or the evidence she had shown him. Every scar on his body, every detail in those holograms, seemed to whisper that he wasn't who he thought he was. But how could he trust her? For all he knew, this could be some elaborate deception. Determined to uncover the truth, Elias decided to explore the palace on his own. Zerithia had given him free rein to wander, though guards always lingered nearby. She trusted him, or at least she wanted him to think she did. Using fragments of information she'd shared about the palace layout, Elias slipped away from his quarters and headed toward a restricted wing. The corridors grew darker as he ventured deeper into the palace. The glowing crystals lining the walls dimmed, replaced by cold metal panels etched with alien symbols. A faint hum filled the air, vibrating through the floor beneath his feet. It felt wrong, unnatural, as if the palace itself disapproved of his presence here. Elias reached a heavy door marked with intricate carvings. At first glance, it looked sealed shut, but closer inspection revealed a small keypad embedded in the frame. His heart raced. How would he get past it? Then he remembered something Zerithia had said during their earlier conversations. Every system in this palace responds to intent. Frowning, Elias pressed his palm against the keypad and focused. To his astonishment, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was an archive chamber unlike anything Elias had seen before. Rows of floating orbs hovered in midair, each containing streams of data visible only when touched. Some pulsed faintly, while others remained still, as though dormant. Elias approached one of the active orbs cautiously. When he touched it, images flooded his mind. Blueprints of advanced technology, maps of distant star systems, and records written in a language he somehow understood. As he sifted through the archives, one particular orb caught his attention. Its surface glowed brighter than the others, almost beckoning him. When he touched it, a flood of classified logs appeared, detailing experiments conducted on captured humans, including himself. His stomach churned as he read descriptions of surgeries, neural rewiring, and genetic modifications. According to the logs, humanity had struck a secret deal with rogue Zithari scientists to create hybrid soldiers capable of infiltrating alien societies. Elias froze. Could this be true? Had he been part of that program? Was he really Kellyan, a Zithari warrior, or just a human experiment designed to look like one? The implications were staggering. If he was a hybrid, then everything he believed about his identity was a lie. And if he wasn't, why had these experiments targeted him specifically? Before he could process further, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "What are you doing here?" Elias spun around to see a Zithari guard standing in the doorway, mandibles clicking angrily. Behind the guard stood another figure, a counselor named Vorthrix, one of the few Zithari who had openly distrusted Elias since his arrival. Vorthrix's golden eyes narrowed as he stepped forward. "You have no business in this chamber," Vorthrix said coldly. "These archives are forbidden even to our own people." "I'm trying to find answers," Elias replied, holding his ground. "Zerithia claims I'm her mate, but I don't remember any of it. These logs suggest I might not even be Zithari. I could be a human weapon created to spy on your kind." Vorthrix hesitated, exchanging a glance with the guard. For a moment, Elias thought they might attack him. Instead, Vorthrix sighed heavily and gestured for the guard to leave them alone. "Whether you are Kellyan or not, you are a danger to us," Vorthrix admitted. "If the rebels discover what you truly are, if they learn we've harbored a potential human infiltrator, they will tear this palace apart." "But am I human?" Elias demanded. "Or am I Zithari? You must know something." Vorthrix studied him silently, then nodded toward the oar Elias held. Keep searching if you must, but beware. The truth may destroy you, and us along with it. With that, Vorthrix turned and left, leaving Elias alone once again. His hands trembled as he returned to the orb, scrolling through more files. Each revelation deepened the mystery surrounding his identity. Yet one thing became clear. Whoever, or whatever, he was, his presence posed a threat to both species. And that made him wonder, if neither side could fully trust him, where did he truly belong? Elias spent the next few days wrestling with the truth, or at least fragments of it. The classified logs he had uncovered painted a grim picture: humanity's greed, rogue Zithiri scientists' betrayal, and his own potential role as a pawn in their schemes. Yet, despite the overwhelming evidence suggesting he might be part human experiment, something within him resisted accepting that version of himself entirely. He couldn't ignore the way Zerithia looked at him, the warmth in her eyes, the desperation in her voice when she spoke of their past together. Was she lying? Or was there more to this story? Zerithia noticed the change in him. Gone was the defiant stranger who denied everything. Now, Elias seemed quieter, burdened by questions he couldn't answer. One evening, after another tense council meeting where rebellious factions demanded answers about Kalian's return, Zerithia approached him in the palace gardens. "You've been avoiding me," she said softly, her melodic voice tinged with sadness. "I needed time to think," Elias replied, not meeting her gaze. "Everything you've shown me, everything I found, it doesn't add up." She sighed, stepping closer until they stood face to face. Her presence was overwhelming, both comforting and intimidating. "I can't force you to believe me, Elias, or Kalian, or whoever you think you are, but I can show you what remains of our life together. Perhaps then you'll understand why I refuse to let you go." Without waiting for his response, she led him outside the palace walls to a sacred grove nestled in the planet's violet wilderness. The air here shimmered with energy, and glowing plants hummed softly, casting an ethereal light over the clearing. It felt alive, as though the land itself pulsed with emotion. "This is where we came when the weight of ruling became too much," Zerithia explained, her tone softer now. "Where we could just be. No titles, no expectations. Just us." Elias listened intently as she shared stories of their past, how they had first met during a diplomatic mission, how they fought side by side in battles that shaped the fate of the Zithiri people, and how they celebrated victories under these very trees. Each memory stirred something deep inside him, like echoes of emotions long buried. He didn't know if they were real or fabricated, but they felt true. As they talked, the peaceful atmosphere was shattered by a sudden rustling in the bushes. A massive predator emerged, a sleek, feline-like creature with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes. It moved silently, its muscles coiled like springs, ready to strike. "Stay behind me," Zerithia commanded, raising her arms defensively. But Elias instinctively stepped forward, his body reacting before his mind could catch up. His movements were fluid, precise, almost unnatural. Together, they managed to drive the beast away, using a combination of Zerithia's commanding presence and Elias's newfound reflexes. Breathing heavily, Elias turned to Zerithia, who stared at him with wide eyes. "How did you do that?" she asked, awe mingling with recognition. That was pure Zithiri instinct. "I don't know," Elias admitted, shaking his head. "It just happened." For the first time since arriving, Elias allowed himself to consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't entirely human anymore. Maybe pieces of Kalian still existed within him, buried beneath layers of doubt and fear. As Zerithia reached out to take his hand, her touch sent a jolt of warmth through him. For a fleeting moment, he didn't feel like an outsider looking in. He felt connected to her, to this place, to something greater than himself. But even as their bond grew stronger, Elias knew the hardest truths still lay ahead. If he was part Zithiri, part human. Where did his loyalties lie? And how could he reconcile two identities that seemed fundamentally at odds? As they walked back to the palace under the glow of alien stars, Elias realized one thing for certain. Whatever path he chose, Zerithia would remain central to it. Whether as his queen, his guide, or simply the woman who refused to give up on him, she had become irreplaceable. The fragile peace Elias and Zerithia had begun to rebuild was shattered in an instant. Just days after their encounter in the sacred grove, whispers of rebellion spread through the palace like wildfire. Vorthrix, the counselor who had confronted Elias in the archive chamber, stood at the center of it all. He had leaked classified information to the rebellious faction, details about Elias's connection to humanity, and the experiments that turned him into a hybrid. The rebels saw this as proof of betrayal, not just by Elias, but by Zerithia herself for harboring him. "They call you Kalian," Vorthrix declared during an emergency council meeting, his voice dripping with venom. "But you are no Zithari warrior. You are a tool created by humans, a weapon sent to destroy us from within." Elias clenched his fists, fury bubbling beneath the surface. "I didn't ask for any of this," he snapped, stepping forward. "If I'm some kind of experiment, then I'm as much a victim as anyone else here." Vorthrix sneered. "Victim? You expect us to believe that? Your actions have endangered our entire species. And now, thanks to your presence, chaos reigns." The room erupted into shouts as other counselors joined the argument. Some sided with Vorthrix, accusing Elias of sabotage. Others defended him, insisting Zerithia knew best. Amidst the chaos, Zerithia remained silent, her glowing eyes fixed on Elias. Though she said nothing, her expression spoke volumes: pain, determination, and a flicker of fear. That night, the situation escalated. A group of rebels stormed the palace, demanding justice for Kalian's crimes. Alarms blared, and guards rushed to defend the throne room. Elias tried to reason with them, pleading his innocence, but his words fell on deaf ears. To the rebels, he wasn't a person. He was a symbol of everything they hated about humanity. "We need to leave," Zerithia whispered urgently, pulling Elias aside. "They won't stop until they see you punished or dead." "But where can we go?" Elias asked, panic rising in his chest. "This is your home. If we run, you'll lose everything." Zerithia hesitated, her resolve wavering. Then she straightened, her regal demeanor returning. "Home isn't a place. It's the people we fight for. Right now, that's you." With her guidance, they slipped out of the palace through hidden tunnels known only to the royal family. The journey was tense, every sound making Elias flinch, fearing discovery. They eventually reached an abandoned outpost orbiting the planet, a crumbling structure overrun with vines and rusted machinery. It was far from safe, but it offered temporary refuge. Inside, Elias accessed the stolen files from the archives, piecing together more details about the corporate conspiracy. The logs revealed a chilling truth. Human corporations hadn't acted alone. Rogue Zithari scientists had willingly collaborated, using captured humans to create hybrids like Elias. Their goal was to destabilize both societies and seize control of advanced alien technology for profit. "This goes deeper than I thought," Elias muttered, staring at the screen. "It's not just about me. It's about what comes next. If they succeed, neither humans nor Zithari will survive." Zerithia placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. "Then we must expose them, together." Elias nodded, though dread weighed heavily on him. Exposing the conspiracy meant risking everything, including his life. But as he looked at Zerithia, he realized something important. He wasn't fighting just for himself anymore. He was fighting for her, for the Zithari people, and for the hope of bridging two worlds torn apart by greed and mistrust. As they prepared their plan, Elias felt a strange sense of clarity. Whether he was Kalian, Elias, or something in between no longer mattered. What mattered was doing what was right, even if it cost him everything. And somewhere deep inside, he knew Zarithia felt the same. The abandoned outpost became their makeshift command center, its crumbling walls and flickering holographic displays a stark contrast to the opulence of the palace. Elias worked tirelessly, using his unique blend of human ingenuity and Cytherian instincts to hack into the palace's central network. The task was daunting. Every system seemed designed to resist external interference, but Elias found himself surprisingly adept at navigating the alien technology. It was as if fragments of Kalian's knowledge resurfaced when he needed them most. Zarithia watched him with a mixture of awe and sorrow. She had never doubted that Elias carried pieces of her lost mate within him, but seeing him now, focused, determined, and undeniably capable, made her heart ache. This man, whoever he truly was, had become someone she couldn't imagine losing again. "We're almost there," Elias said one evening, his voice strained from hours of concentration. He leaned back in the chair, rubbing his temples. His body felt weaker with each passing hour, the strain of interfacing with the Cytheri systems taking a toll he hadn't anticipated. "Once I upload the evidence, everyone will see the truth." Zarithia knelt beside him, concern etched across her radiant face. "You're pushing yourself too hard. You don't have to do this alone." "I do," Elias replied firmly. "This is my fight as much as it's yours. If I'm going to make things right, if I'm going to prove I'm more than just a pawn, I have to finish this." Finally, after days of relentless effort, the moment arrived. Elias initiated the broadcast, sending classified logs, experimental data, and damning evidence of the corporate conspiracy directly to every screen in the palace and beyond. Within minutes, the entire Cytheri population erupted in outrage. The rebels who had once called for Elias's punishment now turned their anger toward the traitorous counselors and rogue scientists exposed by the files. But victory came at a cost. As the final bits of data streamed out, Elias slumped forward, clutching his head. Pain surged through him, sharp and unrelenting, as though his very mind was unraveling. Zarithia rushed to his side, panic overtaking her regal composure. "What's happening?" she cried, holding him steady as his body convulsed. "The neural overload," Elias managed to choke out, his voice weak. "I wasn't meant to handle this much." Tears streamed down Zarithia's face as she realized the truth. The same experiments that gave Elias access to Cytheri abilities also made his human brain vulnerable to catastrophic failure. Each moment he spent connected to their systems brought him closer to collapse. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "Not now. Not after everything we've done." Elias forced a smile despite the agony coursing through him. "It's okay," he murmured, reaching up to touch her cheek. "We did what we set out to do. You'll take care of them, won't you? Make sure they don't repeat these mistakes." Zarithia nodded, unable to speak through her tears. She held him tightly as his breathing grew shallow, his strength fading with every heartbeat. "You've given us hope," she said softly, her voice breaking. "A chance to rebuild, not just our world, but trust between species. No matter what happens, Elias or Kalian, you'll always be remembered." As his vision dimmed, Elias felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time since waking up on this alien planet, he knew exactly who he was. He wasn't just a human scientist or a Cytheri warrior. He was a bridge, a symbol of unity forged through sacrifice. And then, silence. Zarithia cradled his lifeless body, grief overwhelming her. Yet even in her sorrow, she felt a spark of determination ignite within her. Elias had given her, and their people, a future worth fighting for. And she would honor his memory by ensuring that future became reality. Outside, the stars shimmered brightly, indifferent to the tragedy unfolding below. But somewhere among them, perhaps, Elias's spirit lingered, a quiet reminder that redemption often comes at the highest price. Months passed since Elias's sacrifice, and the Cytheri world transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The rebellion dissolved as the truth about the corporate conspiracy spread not only across their planet, but also reached human space. Humanity's leaders scrambled to distance themselves from the rogue corporations involved, leading to widespread investigations and reforms. For the first time in centuries, there was a glimmer of hope for peace between humans and Zithari. Zerithia stood atop the palace balcony, gazing out at the crowd gathered below. They were no longer just Zithari. Among them stood human diplomats, scientists, and even former captives who had been part of the experiments. Together, they listened intently as Zerithia addressed them, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," she declared, her words echoing through the vast courtyard. "An era built on honesty, trust, and mutual respect. We will not forget the lessons of our past, the betrayals, the greed, the lives lost, but we will honor those sacrifices by forging a better future." Her gaze lingered on a small crystalline statue placed near the edge of the balcony. It depicted Elias, or Kalian, in his final moments, standing tall despite the weight of his burden. To the Zithari, it symbolized courage and redemption. To humanity, it represented a chance to rebuild what had been broken. For Zerithia, it was simply a reminder of the man who had changed everything. "Our alliance begins now," she continued, gesturing toward the human delegation. "Through shared knowledge, resources, and understanding, we can create a world where neither species fears the other, where cooperation replaces conflict." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices blending harmoniously, a sound that would have been unimaginable mere months ago. Zerithia allowed herself a brief smile before retreating inside, needing a moment alone to process all that had happened. In her private chambers, she approached the statue once more, running her fingers gently over its smooth surface. Memories of Elias flooded her mind, their arguments, their laughter, their final moments together. She missed him more than words could express, yet she found solace in knowing his legacy lived on. "You showed us how to heal," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "You taught me that love transcends identity, species, and even time. I will carry that lesson forever." As night fell, Zerithia walked out onto the palace grounds, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, perhaps, Elias watched over them, a guardian spirit ensuring their fragile peace endured. She didn't know if he truly rested among the constellations or if he existed only in her heart. Either way, his presence remained undeniable. Back inside the palace, negotiations continued late into the night. Human and Zithari representatives worked side by side, drafting treaties and agreements aimed at fostering unity. Mistakes would be made along the way, and challenges undoubtedly lay ahead. But for the first time, both sides approached the future with genuine hope instead of fear. Before retiring for the evening, Zerithia paused at the entrance to her chambers. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the polished crystal walls, reminding her of the strength Elias had helped her find within herself. With a deep breath, she stepped inside, ready to face whatever came next. For though Elias was gone, his spirit endured, in every handshake exchanged between humans and Zithari, in every decision made with compassion rather than suspicion, and in every starlit sky that reminded them of the infinite possibilities ahead. And so, under the watchful gaze of the cosmos, two worlds began to heal, one step, one memory, one act of courage at a time.